Hey, Catherine. Hey, Alicia.
Hey, Annabelle.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good. How's everything with the project? Yours looked good from what I saw. Are you feeling okay about it?
Well, I finally fixed the controller, and it looks like everything is working fine. It would just
Awesome.
have to take a look at it. I would
Yeah, let's take
see
them.
a little
Let's
bit what I could improve and stuff.
absolutely. Welcome, Robert. How's everything going, Catherine, Robert? Everything okay so far? Things you want to look at, talk about?
So far so good. I think you actually helped me with a lot of the things I needed help with today. So
Okay, good.
yeah, just wanted to sit in on one. I haven't made it an open office yet. So
yeah, awesome. Well, welcome. Catherine, what about you? Anything?
No, I haven't actually started. Today was going to be day one starting on the project. I was struggling setting up that environment, so
Yes,
thanks for helping
I
me
know.
with that.
A lot of people have been having some issues with that
Okay.
on both Macs and Windows. So usually the Mac one's pretty simple, but the problem is it's really particular to everyone's computer, and it's kind of can be tricky to debug. But
yeah, just jumping in, I'm sure, not knowing like what exactly happened. Yeah.
But we'll get everyone set up and make sure that everyone's ready.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, Cedric. How's it going? Is there anything you want to take a look at in particular?
I'm just listening right now. I'm driving right now.
Okay, awesome. Then eyes on the road. Good. Okay, well, Alicia, then do you want to go ahead and share?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so here's my project. So I scraped this recipes web page. It's a quick dinner recipes web page. So this is what it looks like. So every recipe has a title, an author, the prep time, and the food type, and description info.
Awesome.
Okay. So do you want me just to start by running my app in the terminal?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you show us what you got?
Okay. So when I run my app, I get this output. Welcome to Quick Dinner Recipes app, which is here, the greeting method. So now, depending on what I want to do, I type like if I want to see all the recipes, I type recipes.
Awesome.
And to see a particular recipe, I need to type a recipe number. So for example, 2.
Awesome. Great.
And I can keep typing recipe numbers as long as I want to.
Awesome.
And if I want to go back to restart the app, I can type start over. It takes me back to this.
Awesome.
Also, for example, if I want to search recipes by food type, I can type search by food type. And I even can use uppercase letters. It will still work.
Awesome.
Search by food type.
Awesome.
Please enter the name of a food type from the following. And here, again, I can type a word in all uppercase letters, like healthy. And I get these recipes that include healthy word and the food type description.
Awesome.
If I want to see all paleo recipes, I type in paleo.
Awesome.
Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Awesome. It's really great.
So I can again start over. And it takes me to.
Awesome. It's really great.
I just have exit.
Yeah. Good. So the things we can talk about, some of these best practices things as far as it running, meeting the requirements where you're getting more than one level of data, all that stuff is great. I think in theory, I'd have to triple check the requirements, but in theory, I think that the actual content, you'd be good to go. So let's look at some of these different files we have. So let's first just start with your run. Let's just see. Okay, good. So you're just requiring. Okay, so interesting. This is one thing. So you're requiring this specific class. Ideally, we require a file that you actually looks like you have. That's job is to require every other file that we're going to need, and then we just require this. Okay, so inside here, you would put all of the classes that you require. So you're doing, actually you have /lib, and did you install the require all gem? Because that is a gem. Let's look at your gem file. Okay, awesome. Then you might even be good to go. Let's try going into your bin run. And instead of requiring this, let's try requiring the config environment. Let's do the require relative as well, since it is a file path, yeah.
So it's the same directory?
Yep, same level as lib.
So then it's 2 dots?
Yep, so that says get me out of bin. I mean, get me out of, yeah. Awesome. All right, let's see if this is, just go ahead and run it.
Yeah, it's working.
So that's just a best practice thing. This requiring this one file that requires everything else we need is the way to go.
Yeah.
Rather than requiring this, because then in your, let's look at your command line interface. In this class, are you requiring a bunch of stuff up top? Yeah, so we don't want to have to do this here. So this is why it's just neater to have, we can now get rid of all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, let's comment this out. Yeah, we should be able to just get rid of them. And let's kill this and run it once more. Make sure that saves. Let's just make sure that works. And let's just try one thing just to make sure, like ask for all recipes. It seems like it's going to be fine. Yeah. So that's just a best practice thing where these classes shouldn't have to require anything, because the way this is going to work is you're going to run the run file. That will then, you have that require all, it will get everything it needs.
Yeah, cool.
And then it'll have access to everything. And yeah, just for everyone else, you can use the require all gem. You can also just, that is a gem though, you can't use that unless you have it installed. So you can also do essentially the same thing using require relative. So either way, totally fine. Awesome. So let's actually take a look at your, let's look at your scraper class quickly. Okay. So you have a scraper class, a method called API request, a scrape page. So this is going to be scraping. Okay, Sorry?
Oh, because I was playing with the API request, so like this.
So you're not using this, yeah. I mean, that's not a big deal, yeah, but getting rid of it. Okay, awesome, and let's scroll down. Okay, so you scrape the page. You add hashes to the recipes. Okay, let's keep scrolling down. Is this the only method in this?
Yeah.
Awesome, okay. So, yes, I was talking about this morning too, but using class versus instance methods is a choice that you can make. I think you made the right choice here to make this a class method. The reason you would use a class versus instance methods is, in your case, you're making one call, you're scraping once. You're not going back. So an example of when you wouldn't be scraping once would be if when you start your app, you say, please enter a food, like a name of a food. And someone says pizza. And then for every time someone enters that, you made a call, you scrape something, then you might want this to be instance methods, so that you were creating instances for every single food that you scraped. But in this case, since you're doing it all at once, I think it totally makes sense to have this as a class method.
Okay, but that's good to know. I sometimes have to use instance methods because I'm thinking of like trying and building another project using an API because I have time, and see like how that goes.
Yep, that's sounds like a good idea since you do have time. And yeah, if you realized you had a bunch of different methods that were scraping or getting from the API different things, and it felt more like for each time you make a request, you should create an instance of this class, then you might want to do instance methods. It's not necessarily right or wrong to do it either way, but I do think that this is the preferred way to do it for when you're making one call, is just have it as a class method. Awesome. So let's talk about what you're doing with this. Where are you calling this method?
I think in my, let's see. Probably. No.
So let's think about what triggers that to be called. So you run your app right away here. Okay, yep, and then you're calling this method, exactly. So again, for everyone else, there are many different ways you could do this. You can have it where this is happening automatically when you start the application. You could wait to do this until after a user said that they wanted to see all the recipes. It's going to definitely be up to you, definitely up to the situation. This makes sense to do it here right away. You're scraping all of those. And you're keeping track of them here, and then immediately creating an instance of the recipe class for each of them. So this is a great way to do things. You're getting information back from your scraper. The information that you were returning from this scrape page method was an array of hashes, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. Which is also a great way to do things. When we're dealing in the command line interface, beside when we're creating these instances of like our recipe or whatever class, we want to be dealing with objects. But to actually get these instances created, an array, a hash is a great way to do it, because those we can easily turn into objects using those by passing in the whole hash. That's just kind of abstracts things out a little bit. So again, you're making a call to your scraper class to get to scrape the information. Then you're sending that information to your recipe class to create instances from that information. This is pretty much exactly how it should always look in these CLI applications. The reason we're scraping the data is that we want to use it throughout our application. Since we want to use it and we want to have consistent access to it, we should create instances for that information. Okay, awesome. Let's check out this create from collection method just so that we can take a look.
Here.
Awesome. So you set up these add our accessors for all the things we're gonna want each of these recipes to have, and you're passing in that array of hashes, going through that array and creating a new recipe for each. And then you're saving all of those in this added all array. So again, something to think about with your projects, and this is another good thing about what you're doing here, is if you're running your application and I first say, I select the option to see a list of all the recipes. I'm getting all of those recipes from here. The next time I say I want to see all recipes, I'm getting them again from here. Once you've scraped a recipe, you should not ever have to go back and scrape the same information again. That's why we want to keep track of these recipes somewhere in a class variable. So if I, for instance, with the case of where you're searching by paleo, you're going into this array and finding recipes with paleo instead of going back to the website and scraping those recipes.
Yeah, that's the whole point of using a scraper method or an API, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so we can get that information, and then once we're keeping track of it, we don't need to go back and make those requests. We can just use the stored information that we have. So let's go back to your command line interface class. And so here, your make recipes, you're triggering this here. You're creating all of these recipes, and then you're triggering this greeting. And then let's look at your interaction with user method. Awesome. So you're calling this gets method, and you have to check all of these different conditions. So this is something that's going to be a huge part of all of your applications, is you're going to have to check for different conditions. If the user enters something that you wanted them to enter, or also if a user entered something that is not one of these valid options. It's going to be important to check for a user entering random characters or misspelling something, which it looks like you're doing here, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have a method for it to enter correctly.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Awesome. And that does that, which is great. And the other really good thing that you've done is you really abstract or pulled out separation of concerns with not just these methods where you have a method that's job is to do one thing in theory. So obviously you're calling a couple of methods, but these are the methods that are needed to start over. These are the methods needed to exit the application. The other thing you're doing separation of concerns really well is there are only put statements in the CLI class. That is always, always, always what we want. Nowhere should you have a puts anywhere but the command line class. Nowhere should you make an API call or a scraping call anywhere besides this class.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at where when a user selects all recipes or whatever that option was, let's look at that method.
Okay.
So the display recipes, where's that?
Yeah.
So yeah, where's that actual display recipes? Yeah, awesome. Or I guess any of these are fine, but this one's fine too.
You want to see the display recipes one? Or?
Yeah, or I mean any of those ones were fine. Just one where you're actually displaying the information. Yeah, but that's totally fine.
Okay, here.
Okay, yeah, this is perfect. So again, you're getting the input, you're checking all these cases, and then you're going through that recipe.all. We're not making any additional calls we're not scraping again. We're using the information we already have and just putting it out. Awesome. Does anyone have questions while we're looking at this application about what's going on, about how Alicia set this up? No? Okay.
I always have questions if there's no one willing to ask anything.
Yeah. What do you?
Uh, First of all, awesome project, Alessia. The second, um, I'm more interested in the separation of concerns when it comes to making API calls. Like, okay, I get the puts that they all have to be in the CLI, but is there any other reason besides separation of concerns that we shouldn't make API calls in other files?
No,
Oh,
there's
okay.
not really. It's just separate. We really want to have these things where they belong. So if I were to be working together on some sort of project like this one, and I had to go and clone the repository, it shouldn't be hard for me to find. If I get some sort of error, it shouldn't be hard for me to find it. I should know it's something wrong with an API call. Easy, it's going to be in the API class.
Okay, so how would you, because I have problem with mapping in my mind how to access things from different files. Let's say I make an API call. Yeah, I make an API call and I assign it to a variable, right? How do I access it from the command line? I mean, it's a very basic thing, and I did it probably a lot of times in the labs, but somehow I don't remember.
No, that's a good question. I think it's easy to be confused by that. So remember that the difference between return values and puts, obviously puts is what we see here. That's what we're doing to see all of this. The reason that return values are really important is we can use the values that are returned from methods in other methods and other places. So for instance, let's say you have, let's actually, Alicia, do you mind scrolling up to where you call the scraper class? I mean, the method in your scraper. I think it was, yeah. Okay, right here. So what Alicia is doing is she's calling this method that's in her scraper class and assigning it to a variable. This method.
I could do that with the namespacing classes as well, right?
Yep,
it wouldn't be a different syntax rather than the namespace.
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Exactly the same. Yeah. So we're just invoking, in this case, a class method on our scraper class. That method returns an array of hashes. In this case, yours, it could be different in yours, just depends. But we're keeping track of that in a variable, and then we're sending that to another method. This method happens to be in the recipe class. So the return, we can assign variables to the return value of our methods. So from this scraper class, that scrape page method returns that array of hashes. We want to use that, so we attach it to a variable and then send it into this other method that's going to also return something. Or in this case, I guess the return value of that isn't as important because of the way that this is working.
Do you mind if I show you exactly what I have something similar with this, but I just want to make sure it's the correct thing.
Yeah. Alicia, before we kick you off, do you have any?
I have a quick question. So far I have scraped only this page. And should I add actual instructions how to cook the meal and to my
so your meat
for every recipe I have, and I'll have to scrape this page.
Right. So you absolutely do not have to do that. If you wanted to add additional functionality to this, that you could totally do that. You don't need another method in your scraper class. And then you'd be scraping this page. If you do, I've said this before, but if you do want to do something like that, I recommend creating a new branch on GitHub just so that in case anything gets messed up, you don't ruin what you already have. But yeah, that's totally an additional thing you could adding the option to see all of this information from another page.
Okay. I'll think about it.
Yeah, not required. You're already meeting, I think, all the requirements. So that's up to you.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thank you. It's really awesome. Looks great.
Thanks.
Okay, Andre, you want to
Yeah.
share?
So click and okay. Sorry about this is not the right thing. I'm working on a separate branch now, so this is just me testing stuff.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so I have my API class. You know about this.
Mhm.
This will disappear.
Yep.
I promise. Why? I still don't get it. Why I shouldn't use this, but I trust you.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go back to your API class.
Okay.
Because the difference here between your the way you're accessing data and the way that Alicia was is that she was saying, right when I load my app, I'm going to get every piece of information that I need all at once.
Mm.
I'm just going to get it all, and that's all I need, and I'm going to immediately send that information to the recipe class to create the recipes. The way yours is working is you're saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until the user tells me a specific piece, a specific place they want the weather for. So this method is actually really particular about for whatever country and city you're passing in. So you're going to be calling this over and over for different cities and countries.
Yeah.
So what makes sense is every time you do this, you're going to be keeping track of these variables and sending them here and then utilizing them here. So it makes more sense to create an instance because you're going to have an API call for London, for New York, for wherever. So it makes more sense to have those as instances because they have very specific city name, country, and key values. Whereas in Alicia's case, she was just getting all of that information at once. There weren't going to be different instance variables for different calls because she only made that once in her app. Does that make sense?
And somehow, how like in terms of functionality would be different?
No,
Like,
it's not.
It's
yeah. As far as
like the
functionality,
same?
it's not going to change in any big way.
Yeah.
It's just going to be how you're calling these methods then in your CLI class. So you would call weather API .new .get weather, and that would get the weather. So it's not, again, it's not a big. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just thinking
it's
about
a way.
Yeah, and you're going to be overwriting these. If you had them as class variables, you'd be overwriting them with every call. This way,
That's why.
right. So this way you're creating an instance that will have its own instance variables. So you could have done it absolutely the way you had it before. You still can if you would rather do that. But I think
I'll try your way for practice.
Yeah.
Because it confuses me. So if it's confusing, I should do it. You know.
Yeah, you should definitely give it a try, but I want to make sure that it is clear why that would be better. So if you do go that route, or even if you don't, we can keep talking about it, practice with it, and make sure it's makes sense.
Okay, so thank you for that explanation. So we saw that I'm calling the API here. I mean, basically, this is the API call.
Yep.
And does this count as an API call? No, right?
Okay, so
sorry, basically it's this and this, because these are accessing the API.
Yeah, so this is our API class. This is our other class. Your weather one to create instances of the weather. So in your controller, what you're doing here is your weather API get weather class method returns what? I can't remember.
It returns a hash.
Okay, of that specific.
This is the weather, and it will return this specific API hash
So when you
that
call
I'm
that
processing.
method,
I'm processing it. I'm accessing it with this.
okay,
Basically, this is the API response.
yep, awesome. That's exactly what it should be. So
Yeah.
you're taking that response from your API call, which in your case is a hash. In Alicia's, it was an array of hashes. And you are creating the weather instance for the weather that you just got back from that API.
Yeah. So this bit.
So this is where you're creating the weather. So you should be sending, and you are, you're sending this into there. Exactly.
I have it like this user input method is up here.
Got it. Yep. Makes sense. And you're saving these as instance variables. So, yep, these might not necessarily need to be instance variables.
Yeah, I just made them out of habit.
Yeah, and it's fine to do it that way too. Keeping track of in your CLI class or your controller class, keeping track of the current data that you're dealing with is good to do in instance variables. Of course, you can keep accessing them in other methods, but totally fine to have local variables if that works there too.
Okay, so basically I don't really need to make big changes to this and this, right?
So
like
now,
except for this bit, you told me it's not good.
right? So we don't want to be calling that here.
Can I say I had a session with Harry before, and he has a problem with his project that I have to. If you enter bad input one time, and you after that you try to enter good input, it will be processed, and when you want to exit the app with an exit command, the program will try to run the methods on the bad input.
Okay, do you mind showing?
Will exit. Sorry?
Do you mind showing me that?
Yeah, how do I get back to my original branch? I just made a lot of changes.
So let's do git. Do you know the name of it? Is it master?
Yeah.
All right, yep, git checkout as one word, master. Yep.
And git pull?
You should already have, this should be the master.
I think the problem Andrea may have with that functionality is like it may be something with the loop and the conditions that are like are not in the right places or something. Because I had that problem before. So
yeah, it's somewhere you must be storing the bad user input that we don't want to keep track of, and then sending it to those methods.
So basically what this does, if my hash is bad, like if I get the parsed response equal to nil, I'm rerunning the controller instead of going and rerun a loop or get the input a second time. So with this, in my mind, it makes sense because it's resetting all the inputs I had before.
But sorry, I think the problem is that you're still creating an instance of the weather class. If you get into initialize, it will have created this already. So are you able to show me that happening?
Yeah, but I don't know why it's not like the files are the changed ones. Like I had a lot of things here. Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry, I don't have a mouse.
It's all right.
I'm just gonna do everything as before so I can show you what's going on. So it's two cases. Like if you enter invalid input 2 times, the app will exit, and if you enter input once, which is bad. Sorry, I'll just show you.
Okay.
I just want to see if it works. Okay, it works. So I'm gonna comment this controller, and I'm just gonna leave on return. Like, you'd think that would work, you know, like exit the app, or what would you use here?
I think that we shouldn't even be getting here. Where is it that you're accounting for bad input?
Okay, I'll show you. But I want to show you what happens if I have this commented off. So I'm entering some invalid input, and then I'll enter invalid input again. It exits the app.
Okay.
Let me see if it works with this case. I think I sorted this conditional, like when you enter bad input once, and then you enter it correctly, and then if you try to exit, yeah, it works. Okay, so how would you approach this? I entered invalid input 2 times, and then it just got out.
Let's go look at your controller, or where are we handling this? Where are you checking? So this was for the location, right? When someone enters a location.
Here. This is the user input. This is the first method you would get.
So you're getting these, and then you are making the call to your API.
Yeah.
What I think, okay, and then let's put it, let's bring this pry back actually that you have right here. And let's run it. Okay.
Should I enter a bad input?
Let's do bad. Let's do the empty spaces that you did before.
Oh.
Okay. Let's take a look at this.
It doesn't work with tab. See, so this is why I use the parsed response nil.
Okay, so then you're saying, so this is, that's the location. This is the, oh wait, where am I? We're here. We're user input. If user input dot parse response equals nil, put invalid input, and then you call this again. Okay, let's see what happens if you exit out of that. Let's start over, and let's do 2 empty. So Control C out. And let's just do no, just hit enter or whatever. Oh, yeah.
You want me to?
Okay, and now let's look at this again.
Same thing.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was still going to give us nil. Okay, so you're saying you're calling user input. If user input dot parse response is nil, put invalid input, and then call user input again. Then you're saying the city name equals get.chomp. Please enter the country name for more accuracy. At country equals. Okay. No, because you're calling user input again. Sorry. Here, so you shouldn't get to here until we have a good location.
Right. Should I put user input outside the if, or should I put it? Oh.
If it.
Should I put an else there? Like.
You shouldn't need an else, because if it's bad input, we'll call this method again.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're right.
At city. User input.
Like you don't. Yeah. You don't need an else.
So you're calling this and in here. And will you type in at city name and then at country? Okay, and then
The
add
country
country.
is the same.
Okay. And then let's type in exit. Okay. This says invalid input, and then it says welcome.
Do you want me to try and put bad input again?
What was it that we did when you did London? It worked the second time, right?
Yes, if I enter correct input, it will work.
Okay. So sorry, now I'm forgetting. When was it breaking? When we entered bad input the first time?
When you enter bad input 2 times.
Okay, so let's enter bad input again.
I'm gonna enter some gibberish just so we can make difference.
Yep. All right, and now let's look at that same thing.
So we get the same things.
Yeah, let's look at that. Oh, no.
So you get this.
And the response should be no. So we would come back here if this. All right, so let's type in exit again.
And it doesn't run for a third time.
Okay, interesting. Sleep 2. Okay, and when you run this app, you're doing run, it's doing welcome, you're calling user input.
Yep.
In here, you're assigning this get weather. Country name. I'm wondering. Do you mind scrolling down? Is this the end of the user input method?
Yeah.
And then the pry. Okay.
And then you have the options, but we don't get to options.
Okay.
Is it this? Is it trying to get to options? And if the user input is nil, and it returns and just exits?
Let's move the pry in the top of options and see. I don't see why it would have. Let's do it at the very top, the first line. Okay, so let's do the bad input.
Still bad?
Yep. Aha, so it is getting to options. So yeah, we aren't going to want return like this ever. We're always going to want to have some sort of error message that we're going to trigger. So
you are very right. That would have been helpful.
So this is triggering. Why is it getting to options? Let's scroll up to your welcome again. Yep.
You want me to scroll up?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get rid of this return. All right, awesome. I'm just trying to figure out, we set this, we then assign this, make a call to the get weather.
I think it was the return there.
But I'm wondering why we even got to options at all. Because you should have, with bad input, continued to be stuck. Let's scroll back up to the top. Yeah. Okay. Welcome. User input. If this is no, puts invalid input, select choice, call user input. Again, so that works the first time around.
Should I use while instead of if? Because maybe if only runs it once. I mean, basically I get the user input, I enter the bad input, I get the user input again, and then the if conditional goes away, you know, it finishes executing. It's not a loop. It's not a continuous loop.
This again, and then this returns this. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do a while loop. Great thought, because yeah, then this is user input is just returning this.
Yeah, and then says, okay, I did my job.
Exactly.
And we're gonna work with bad input.
Yep.
And then it gets to this point.
Yep.
The parse response equals nil, so it gets
exactly.
okay,
yeah, good catch. That's exactly what it is, because this is it's running this method again, but it's not going to come back to user input because we're inside the welcome method. That's why.
Just gonna, okay, let me get rid of the pry.
Yeah,
I think this is it.
I think that's going to be it. And then we can, in your initialize, not have to worry.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Let me
it.
see.
Good catch.
Ah,
Oh, this didn't save. Wait, that's weird because it. Yeah, make sure if you ever see this.
Oh, I saved it when I did the while loop, but not when I did the pry.
All right.
Um,
But it's working.
yeah.
So the problem with you only should ever create a new instance of your controller once. We are only like the whole time you're playing with someone's application is you're dealing with an instance of this controller class or an instance of the CLI class because we're in the CLI. When I exit, we're starting this all over again. So let's look at your weather again.
Yeah, so I can.
Now you're never gonna have this.
Yeah,
it's always
exactly.
gonna be real data. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean you did that on your own pretty much. So.
Okay, yeah, everything's fine now. I can.
So now
yeah, this.
get back to putting all the puts where they belong. But yeah, I mean
exactly. This is gonna be easy.
Mm-hmm. And good job.
Awesome.
That's Andre. Thanks for same with Alicia too. Great error handling. That's going to be really important. No point in your application should something error out. The only way that you should exit the application is if someone types in exit or however you tell them to exit your app.
Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for the patience.
Yeah, I mean, they look awesome. Good examples of what these projects look like. Does anyone have questions, whether about those projects, about their project in general?
I did have one,
Mm-hmm.
And you made a comment about it in the Slack about Postgres, and
Yep.
if it didn't go through, not to really worry about it right now.
It shouldn't affect anything because we're not using a database in this project. Have you been able to get it like things up and running without it, right?
Everything seems to be working. It's that, and then was it PSQL? That also didn't install.
So those are both databases, and for this project, we don't have to worry about them. So don't let that stop you. We'll definitely get that sorted out when we come back in the next section. Okay. But for this, no databases, so we don't have to worry about that at all. Yeah, that was my only real issue. I had some issues getting GitHub, like my getting it set up, but I figured it out today. I'm a little bit talking to you and a little bit doing it myself. So okay, good. I know. Like I was saying before, a lot of people are having GitHub can cause a lot of issues when getting that the local environment set up, and it's kind of just trial and error, a lot of Googling. But awesome that you got that set up. Okay. Anyone else? Anything you want to ask? Anything? Okay. I got nothing. Any?
Do you want me to pull my question notebook?
If you want to. Absolutely. I like that you have a question notebook. A question notebook.
It's a question notebook.
Cedric, environment issues?
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I went through and tried it again. I just can't.
Why don't you share your screen?
Just to like a note on like environment setup.
Sorry?
I used one of the Avi's YouTube tutorials. I think it was the newsletter app he built.
Okay.
I used his setup and it worked.
It worked perfectly?
Right away. So
And
if
you're
somebody had it one time, they could try to use that one.
okay. Thank you. And you're a Mac or a?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know because I have had some people with Mac issues too. Thank you. I'll reference that for sure. Okay, so this probably means if let's open. Let's go into your. Let's go into help and type in where are the packages? Let's click terminal, actually. I think that is it going to be tasks? Maybe edit. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where these
What are you looking for?
where you get the packages to set up running these commands. Let's just go through all of these things up here. Click selection. I just want to see. Okay, let's go to view. Command palette. Okay, I think that's what we want. Cool. So let's type preferences, terminal selective. Let's type in code. I think this is it. I don't use, let's click this first one. So enter. Did that do anything? Oh, wait. Sudo app install, no code found or select. There's a way to set up. Let's just go ahead and give it a Google, like VS Code command.
Sorry, Cedric. Could you try to run code from your command line, but outside VS Code? Because basically what code should do should just launch your code editor.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you have files in here, right?
I did at one point. Like I said, I stripped everything down and.
Oh, there's nothing in here?
Yeah, I mean it's
LS. Do we see anything? Okay, no, you do have files. So those should open when we do code. Period. I'd have to. Because code is a command. I think it's something.
Can you try it without the dot?
Yeah, I tried it with the dot right after the E with the space.
Here, I think we have to just get the command line set up. Let's do, here we go. Shell, okay. Oh, this is what we need. Windows and Linux, it should add the VS Code binaries location to your system's path. We have to get that code command set up. You can manually add the location to the path. Okay, this is just going to require, sorry, I'm not very familiar with the Windows setup. What we need is to get this code command installed.
Okay, I think I got it. I have an answer in front of me from Stack Overflow. Cedric, could you please press F1 so we can go to the command palette? Yeah, and you should type in shell command.
The hell command?
Yeah, shell, sorry.
Or shell command.
Yeah.
You need the symbol.
The caret.
Yeah, you need the caret, or otherwise it won't come up. I had that same issue.
Yeah.
What's the caret?
The less than.
The shift, yeah. It's next to, it's like above your space bar, a little to the right.
Oh, it's right there. Oh,
yeah, that one.
Oh, great. Okay.
So somehow you should have had something.
It was there before when we went to, let's go to selection again, or yeah, click that. Or view, or let's go, yeah, command palette.
Yeah, that's it.
Just type shell, don't type shell command.
Oh.
With the caret.
With the caret. There we go. Manage. Neither of those.
Yeah, I don't think those are it.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I looked at this with someone else and it did. It says yeah. Shell command should come up on Windows. Let's see. Run code networks. Terminal, scroll to next command, show all command. It seems like you might need to set this up in your path.
And I'm on a Mac. My command line is it's shell command and then colon install code. Maybe you have to put the command word in. I'm on a Mac, so I'm not sure if the VS Code is different on a Mac than it is on a...
Down here in the command line?
No, like in up here. You can't see my mouse. In that same line, if you do put shell command, it should come up. Try putting shell in capital, maybe.
Yeah, I can't tell. Let's click Manage Workplace Shell Permissions. Click Allow. Is that already selected? And run. Let's exit out of this and open a new terminal. I swear I looked at that with someone else and it was as easy. Maybe it was a Mac. All right, and let's get back into that directory. I think you have to edit your...
Oh, that was a lot there.
And you're doing that, yeah, into whatever the name.
Since you got the new installation, have you installed the shell? Like, have you run any shell command install or something like that?
I haven't. This is far. I mean, this is a step further. But when I went through the setup document that they sent, because I had Visual Code connected to my GitHub before.
They said, I saw some comments saying that you have to restart your terminal in order to have an effect.
Yeah, so that's what let's see if this works, but I actually think I see it. Did you follow all these instructions in the WSL where it says to type in here, terminal select default shell?
Yeah, terminal default, yeah, WSL, yeah, that's what on the, well, see, on the Windows setup, it says select WSL bash. As for the default.
Can you type in code V? Code space -V.
Let me get back to it.
Let me see if I can get. Let me see if I can get some.
Should be. Yeah. What was that again?
It's code space -V, like to check the version. And this will say if you installed it or not. Okay, so you don't.
This does, yeah, there's none of the terminal, I mean the command line.
Have you installed Bash? Like the Bash is a terminal, and I think it has that extension.
Was that the?
So you're just missing these terminal, I mean the command line commands.
Are you using the guide from the?
Yeah. Now, when I did, I will say when I went through, when I put, hold on, let me just, when I put this in, I got that.
Are you supposed to put that in?
That was us adding a Flatiron customization to your terminal.
So I think you're supposed to be in the top level of your directory when you run that. Yeah, let's.
But that came in after. It says you put in the CD MNTC users, then your Windows username.
Yeah, so this
and it goes in after that.
Yeah, so we want to be not inside all these labs. We probably want to be inside of here. So you want to go into here, but not inside the dev. All right, let's go all the way back to the top level. So CD, and then try it again. Try this again. There we go. Okay, so now we've done that. Now you need to install.
That's what I'm supposed to put.
Yeah, I think that's what the problem was. You might need to, I've just read somewhere that you might need to uninstall VS Code. Don't worry, that won't mess up any of this stuff, but, and reinstall it. And I think that when you install it, it might say something about the bash commands. Or we can also start with just restarting VS Code. But this is good. It looks like these might have been some things that didn't happen before.
So I need to start over now because, like I said, this didn't go through before. So
yeah, I would keep following those instructions because this is happening. This doesn't have to do with VS Code. So let's keep pasting the. Yep. Cool. And then the next one. Cool. Okay. And then you set up all the directories.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's now get out of, let's shut down VS Code. Like quit out of it entirely. And then let's try opening it again. Okay. So let's try doing CD back into that. Yeah. Sorry, into where you had the project. So Flatiron dev/code or whatever.
So I need to So I don't need the CD MNT to use it like I was before, or
So I think that was just for the setup, wasn't it? Type in ls. Yep. So let's. Okay. So you have two things here. So you have to CD into one of these. I don't know which one holds your code. It's probably going to be dev because let's do dev because that's the way it wanted you to set it up. Okay, and then ls here. Okay, so this code needs to be inside of here. This is set up expecting it to be dev and then code and then Flatiron and then labs and then that's where your labs will be.
So I need to CD code in?
So code isn't in the same, code's at the same level. We need code inside of dev. So let's make the code directory now. So with the mkdir, yeah. It's one word, mkdir. So you can just copy and paste if you go to the example. So you want to, oh, actually, this doesn't even want a code directory. It just wants Flatiron and then labs. Okay.
Yeah.
Flatiron.
Oh, yeah, that's all. Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, straight right.
Flatiron, and then CD into Flatiron. And then make the directory labs.
So direct, okay.
Right. So now you want to make another directory, yep. Labs. Okay. Let's then CD into labs. Let's just make a random file. So use the command touch space, like, I don't know, test.rb. It doesn't really. Now we have a file in here. And let's try code space dot. I don't think it's going to work right now, but. Oh, wait, it might work. So when you get this stuff set up, it asks you to put these in specific folders that are in other folders. So when it's looking for your stuff, it was expecting a really specific directory. So I don't know if that's going to fix this problem with this command, but that's going to be important that you have that correct structure.
Okay.
Seems like it's getting this set up for us.
You're good.
Hopefully.
Like I would just reinstall the Windows and buy a new machine or something.
I mean, this might not do it. Let's see. Okay. Let's try code space period again.
Something popping up here.
Oh, it is? Okay. Oh,
Another VS code popped up.
That's what we want. Does it say, is the file name test.rb?
Oh yeah, test.rb. Yeah.
Okay. So what you'll want to do is you can now go back. Let's CD all the way back. So just type in CD. And then CD into code. And then ls. Where did that ants thing go?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, what I would do is
I didn't get anything. So if I start from.
Okay, well now the code command works. So you're gonna want to stick with the Flatiron directory. So I recommend maybe even getting rid of this code directory. And inside Flatiron, you now have a labs directory, and you also could make a project directory. And what code, so you want to be inside whatever directory you're working in. So you'll have the top level directory for your project. When you've CD'd into ants or whatever you name it, code space period will open every single file and directory inside that folder.
So now do I have to remake the Flatiron directory? Because now it's saying that.
Nope, it's still there if you type in ls. It's just inside dev.
Okay.
So you always have to, these are just, if you open, let's do this really quick. Actually, I don't know how this works on Windows. But you can open all of these things that you're creating in like the file tree that you have. This is just how we navigate through the command line. Yep. So you'll have to keep, and ls will just show you what's in there. But awesome, now code works. Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
So now I can
Got sorted. Now you should be good to go. You can make things, you can open them.
all right, appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank
Have a
you,
great rest of
Annabelle.
your Monday,
Thanks, guys.
and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah. Bye-bye.